Are you all set?
Yeah.
Let her rip. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting for the evening of July 11th, 2016. If we could all rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the Board of Selectmen have come out of a non-public session for personnel matters and a meeting with legal counsel. We got a late start. It's now about 3 minutes of 7. Our original intention was to start at 6:30, but we ran over a little bit. So, the first part of the meeting is approval of consent items. For consent items, we have the minutes of June 27th, 2016 of the Board of Selectmen, accounts payable manifest for July 5th in the amount of $1,665,535.75, and for July 12th, 2016 of $89,431.75. Payroll manifest for July 5th of 16 for the amount of $33,308.28. For July 14th of 2016 in the amount of $82,054.09. We have a form going to the New Hampshire Department of Revenue called the MS 535 form, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the audit form. And another form to the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration, the PA 28 form, which is
tax inventory form that we choose not to use.
Yes. Okay. Those are the items for consent. Are there any members of the board who wish to remove any items of consent?
Mr. Chairman, just a question. The $1,665,000, was that a school payment?
Yes.
Part,
of that
okay.
was school.
Yep.
1.5 million
Was school. Okay.
Any other questions on this or any items that wishing to be removed?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move.
I would like to remove from the consent calendar the minutes of the Selectmen's meeting of June 27th, 2016. Are there any other items for removal? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Are there any other items that the board wishes to add to the agenda for this evening's meeting? Hearing none. Public input, we will have public input no later, this says, than 6:45. I'll wait until about 7:15. So, first item on the agenda is PFOA update, which is to update the board on a meeting that was held last week, Thursday, with Governor Hassan, as well as the other communities that are involved in this. Troy, do you want to update the board on that, or?
Yeah, the meeting was called by the governor. Town of Amherst, Merrimack, Bedford, Litchfield were all represented. There's probably about, I'd say 25 individuals there at the meeting. Governor wanted to make sure that communication between New Hampshire DES, Department of Health and Human Services, there were no issues. The communication was flowing good. She assured us that, this was a top issue for her and these town, the state departments. We expressed concern about whether or not any contingency plans have been discussed at the state level in case construction would not occur to the extension of the water lines this fall, and what the backup plan would be. The state's still very confident that by working with St. Gobain, New Hampshire DES, and Pennachuck Waterworks, that construction will be able to start this fall if St. Gobain endorses this as part of their remediation plan. One of the things that we did learn is that they're already talking about if for any reason the project is not able to be completed this year, then the plan is to install as much water line as possible. We can hook up homes to the water service. And then for whatever homes are, not able to be hooked up, there would be plans made to put in some type of point of source filtration system. It'd be a temporary system until spring construction could be finalized. The governor also agreed that future meetings would be scheduled to make sure that communication is still flowing properly. I think that was a good summary of the meeting with the governor.
I think there's a couple other things that we discussed, one of which, to make the board aware of, is that discussions between St. Gobain and the state are moving forward rather rapidly. They're looking to try and come forward with a position. Based upon that, this board had provided St. Gobain and DES with a copy of what our requests were for the town needs in this whole thing. A couple things. Number one, it's my belief that that's a public document, and I just wanted to confirm that with the board. Everybody agrees that that's a public document? If it is, then I'd like to get that hung up on the town website, if we can do that.
Yep.
Okay. The second thing is that based on a discussion that we had with the commissioner or the deputy commissioner of DES, he feels that it would be to the town's benefit, and I agree with him on this, that what we would do is we should enter some type of discussion directly with St. Gobain. And that would be basically to present to St. Gobain that letter to discuss it. The idea would be that before an agreement between the state and St. Gobain is struck, whatever we can agree to, we would want to get put into that agreement between the state and St. Gobain. So that it's the power of the state that now holds St. Gobain to making these commitments fulfilled. Okay? Anything above and beyond that, then the town will have to handle on its own somehow. My concern is that before we do that, I want to make sure that that is a direction the board would like to go in. And
Would they be amenable to that?
we don't know. We'd have
Yeah.
to call them up and say, we'd like to sit down and go over our letter to you that we sent you last week, what was it, Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that anything, any road that we can travel that protects the interests of the town, whether, I think we're more familiar with the information that we sent to them about our wants and needs, and having to rely on another agency to do that is probably not in our best interest. I would definitely be in favor of that.
John?
Yep.
So I guess what I would like to do is make a motion that we direct the town administrator to contact the appropriate individuals within St. Gobain and ask for a sit-down meeting between St. Gobain and the Board of Selectmen to go over that.
We would want our representation to be there as well, right?
Council?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it would make sense.
right. Good move. I'll second that.
We have a motion, second, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0. Oh, and just a point is, Selectman Bork could not make it this evening because he's got meetings down in Connecticut, and unfortunately, those meetings had to go much later than he anticipated. So, okay, does that make sense, Troy, if we can
Yes.
connect up with them?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think those were the things that came out of the meeting with Governor Hassan. DHHS blood testing program informational meeting.
So, I'm working with New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. They want to hold a public informational meeting to discuss homeowners, not just in Litchfield, but in Bedford and all the other impacted communities, how people would go about scheduling themselves if they want to as a voluntary process, how they would go about scheduling for a blood test for PFOAs. And the meeting, the press release is coming out today. I didn't see it by the close of business, but I'm sure it's being released later today or first thing in the morning. The meeting will be next Tuesday at the high school auditorium, and that meeting will start at 7 o'clock. So as soon as we have the press release, we'll get that out on Facebook, and I will do the co-red alert.
If you could do that for the whole town, I think that would be appropriate. I know you've been limiting it just to the people up in the area, but I think if we do the whole town.
That's a good point. For that one, I think it should be a townwide.
The other thing is, in discussions we had with the Deputy Commissioner of DES, he will be at that meeting, and he will be using that meeting to update residents of the town as to what DES's thought process is in terms of going forward, whether they would use point of use, extension of the water lines, or whatever the case may be. So Mr. Clark Frazee will be there to, or his deputy or whatever will be there to present that information to the residents of the town as well. Okay? The other thing going on is that is going to be next week, Tuesday, right? That's December, excuse me, yeah, right.
Wow.
That's July 19th?
It should be a Tuesday.
That's Tuesday. There is also another one coming up on August 3rd,
That's correct.
and that is,
And that will be held at the auditorium as well. And that's a state public hearing to gather input from citizens on the standard that the state is considering adopting for the level of, or lifetime exposure of the PFOAs.
so that will,
Set at 70 parts per trillion.
that will be the meeting where the state solicits citizen input as to the 70 parts per trillion water level.
If you're not able to make that meeting on August 10th, I understand they'll have the same hearing down at Pease, the former Pease Air Force Base.
Okay. Now, all of that put together, I think it makes sense. In discussions we had again with the deputy commissioner, to have our own meeting with the citizens of the town to discuss a couple different perspectives. Number one, what is the state agreement once they make that, which we hope it'll come out by August 1st. What is the entailed and what is contained in the agreement between DES and St. Gobain? And number two, the citizens of Litchfield have to understand who is negotiating for who here. Some of this information, or some of the negotiations the state are making, represent their interests in terms of this water resource. And it sounded to me in all the meetings that I attended that DES was saying that they would negotiate on behalf of the residents of town. But when that was pointed out to them, they said, no, they are not negotiating on behalf of the residents of the town. So I think it's important that we would have a meeting sometime in early August to try and get clarity as to what's in the St. Gobain agreement between the state, what is the town, and what has the town requested, and what has it been able to get an agreement on with St. Gobain, if anything. And what the citizens should be concerned about and responsible for on their own.
Is that before we actually would St. Gobain ourselves, or without we doing that with St. Gobain directly?
Yeah, I would think we would do it after, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
so after we talk to St. Gobain, we schedule a public hearing, understand, so we know what we.
Yeah, I think we can wait, but I just wanted to broach the subject with the board. I think we've got to have a meeting to make sure that the citizens understand who's representing them in certain aspects of this whole thing.
Okay.
Is you guys agreeable to that?
I would think that they would assume we are, that's why it's probably a good idea to let them know.
But I'm not sure that we are in a position to be able to negotiate for the citizens their losses.
I understand.
And
I
and
completely
they
agree.
and they have to understand that,
Right.
and that's I think on,
I think a lot of that would be expected that we would be taken care of, and we can't let them feel that way.
right,
I think our letter even indicates that though too, so once that goes up, I think we're probably gonna get a lot of questions.
right. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands clearly what the layout of the land here is, and making sure the citizens understand this. So my thought is on the meeting of the 25th, we'll have some more information. And I think at that point in time, we can try and pick a date in August to make that presentation.
The meeting of the 25th.
Board of Selectmen's meeting.
We have another one next week?
No, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm screwed up. Okay.
This is the only-
I'm already thinking of the 19th.
This is the 11th.
This
Yeah.
is the 11th, Steve.
Got it. So I'm on board now.
I know you time travel, but. Okay. Does that make sense? We'll try and pick a date on the 25th then. Okay. Anything else on the blood meeting, that DHHS is gonna have? No?
No, but it's just, if you're at home and you're watching, listening, some of the discussion with the state, which I didn't think much of, never thought about it, was the fact that there are people that have lived in this town for many years and maybe have moved away. And if you find yourself, or you know of someone that's in that situation, the state will work with you and make sure you're able to get this blood test. They may have to work with whatever state you currently live in, with that state's Department of Health and Human Services, but it can be done. So a good example would be children that went through the school system here, have gone off to college, graduated, working in California. That individual could be eligible for the blood test.
Just one other point, and that is that the initial indication of the average blood test at Pease Air Force Base, which they have, was 2.1 parts per billion.
Was it 3.1?
I think that was
Normal background is 2.1.
something like that.
Yeah.
It's around 2 to 3 parts per billion. Now, the reason I'm saying this is, keep in mind there's parts per billion and parts per trillion, which is a factor of 1,000 lower. So if you have a level of 2.0 parts per billion, that is 2,000 parts per trillion. Just to make sure everybody's aware.
Okay. Well above the established.
Correct. Okay. Water line extension update?
We talked a lot about that this evening, but I do want the board to be aware. The fire chief is working with his staff, Pinnachuck staff, and reviewing the proposed layout of the fire hydrants. I know he's been away on vacation, but he's still been communicating with the Pinnachuck folks through email. And the last I read was it looked like they were trying to set up a meeting for this Wednesday. So they're working on that. Lou Karen, the contracted engineer, has received the plans, has submitted comments. The plans, unfortunately, still at this point in time that he received were not complete. So the things that he would be looking at were more of the detail of the construction layout, sort of details. So he was not able to comment on that, but that information will be forwarded to him.
Anything else on PFOA, PFOS? Nope. Okay, wastewater feasibility study. Several weeks ago, the Board of Selectmen received the wastewater feasibility study from the engineering company. And we received that study and considered it. What I would like to do is pass that on to the planning board for use in their planning purposes, so that they can enter those informational items that were contained in that study into any future planning that they may be doing in the area. So I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen accepts the wastewater feasibility study and sends that for incorporation into town planning to the Litchfield Planning Board.
Second.
Second, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 400. So if we can just send that along to the chairman of the planning board, that would be good. Next item, safe route to schools.
Okay, this is an item, I think you're all familiar with it. It was brought up last year during the budget process about looking into the feasibility of extending the sidewalk from the middle school up to Albuquerque. This is the sidewalk along Pinecrest. We learned that there's some planning grant funding available. It still remains available today. And the amount of $15,000 would be the maximum award amount. And it's through the Safe Routes to School program. So basically, you need to identify a project that would demonstrate to the state that if you constructed a sidewalk, it would benefit and encourage students from kindergarten up to the 8th grade level to either walk or ride their bicycles, use the sidewalk to go from home to school, back and forth, and it would be safe traveled. In order to get this started, we need to have a committee. I'm proposing that the committee consist of 7 members. Myself would be a member, the road agent, a representative from the police department, a representative from the planning board, a representative from the school, a citizen representative, and a board of selectmen. Once we have the committee in place, the first step is you actually invite the state down. They will provide an informational meeting, and at that point in time, there's a process involved where you'll receive preliminary approval, and once you receive that, you can submit your application, and hopefully we get the grant, and we can start doing the planning.
Do you have to have a planning grant to actually get any other, do we have to have the planning grant to get future funds to do the project?
Well, the way this program worked several years ago, you had to go through the planning process first, and then you'd be eligible for the construction funding. So unfortunately, there's no construction funding remaining, but the planning grant's still there. So the best you can do, at least to try to get the planning done and, a really solid cost estimate of what it would cost. If you can utilize the grant program, then at that point in time, you can try to apply for some other programs that are out there. It's a lot more competitive, but it would, our grant application would be, obviously, would be competitive if we've gone through this process.
Didn't we already do planning at one point? Didn't we have a warrant or?
We had a warrant at one point, I think, and there was a number put to the warrant, and somebody asked the information as to what could it potentially cost, and somebody threw out a huge number with no information, no engineering or whatever, and that killed the warrant.
Got defeated, it was a warrant
Yeah, I remember
to
the
construct it.
To construct it was, I thought, and then.
I thought it was just for the engineering. If it was to construct it, we already have the engineering.
That's
It
why I was
wasn't,
asking.
it was to engineer it, as I recollected.
I thought it was to engineer and construct. That's why the phenomenal amount of money, and I think that's what killed it.
I think what happened was people were saying it could be up to 200,000, and all of a sudden
Right.
everybody lost their tree. The question that I have is that to get this to work, you have to have the school initiate it, don't you?
No, I've always thought that too, but as long as we have school representation on the committee, and we'll learn more about it, but the school needs to have a buy-in to this. If you build the sidewalk, they need to have something in place where they're gonna try to promote students using the sidewalk system. And again, if you're awarded the grant, there's a couple steps that you take. And the first would obviously be doing an analysis of the neighborhood to identify how many students could utilize this sidewalk. So they're not gonna spend money on building a sidewalk when there's no student population in the area that could use it.
Well, it's
Right.
population from Albuquerque down to
Yeah.
middle school.
Yeah. I have a feeling this project is gonna meet all the criteria, but, who knows?
Okay. Other questions? So is there a motion to form the committee? No? Okay. Next item on the agenda.
Really?
What? Oh. Can we hold on one sec? Can we back?
Go ahead.
The issue that I have here is if they're saying there's only 15,000 in planning grants, you're gonna run around in circles to get nowhere. 15 grand, if you're lucky, would engineer it. But it would probably cost you 30. So now it's an operation that would be a direct hit to the budget, and we would have to fund it. We had somebody that was trying to get this to go through and be a warrant article this year, and then decided against it. I don't know why, but I don't know. I mean,
Could we, have you approached the school yet, Troy? School board?
No, I've not spoke to the school board.
Do you think, might it be prudent to approach them to see if they would buy into it first before we start the legwork going?
Good, there's no harm in doing that.
Because, like you said, it's important that they buy into it.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is that maybe approach the school board, see what their feeling is, and if they're on board, come back, and then we can move forward here.
I
Because,
really feel this is something that the schools should be heading.
yeah, I mean, I'd like to see them in
It's a safe routes
integral.
to school. I mean,
Yeah,
we should really be the ones in the back seat here saying, oh yeah, that's a great idea, go right ahead. And I think it would come off a lot better to the townspeople when it comes to funding the project, if safe routes to school comes from the school. But I'm just one guy.
That's a good point. I mean, sometimes, I've seen this in towns where the school has taken the lead.
Yeah.
But, I've learned that it doesn't have to be that way, so I know that the individual from the state or a representative from the regional planning commission, more than willing to come down, meet with the school board, explain the program to them, and see what the school board's reaction is.
personally, I'd feel better if we got that reaction first.
I agree.
And so could we just defer this
Sure.
until we do that? Is that okay, Mr. Chairman?
Well, you're gonna defer it based upon what are you looking to get done in the meantime? Are you looking just to get are you looking to get the leadership of the school, or what are you looking for?
I'm looking,
Or the consent or buy-in, or what?
I'm looking to see if the school board is willing to
So-
be a partner in this
Just to-
project.
Just to make sure we're all back on the same page, so 2013 when we asked, and the amount of dollars was, we asked to raise $12,000, or 12,005 for the engineer.
Right.
So we didn't actually have a total none. I think that's, you're right. Someone probably came back and said it's gonna cost us $200,000, $300,000.
So that's what I remember, yeah,
And it was.
they asked
it
the
was
construction cost.
overwhelmingly defeated.
Yeah, so,
It was like 311 in favor to 780 against, for a small $13,000 investment, to see if it was even, what it would cost us to do it.
It's fine. If, I just wanna clear this off the books, that's all.
Yeah,
If the board doesn't wanna go forward with it, that's,
3 years ago?
2013,
So if you go by 3 years ago, the town had no interest. Has the interest changed dramatically enough to make it worth it?
no idea.
We'd be guessing.
I still think that the school board should be approached anyway to see if what their level of interest would be.
So does the board wish to, there's one of two tracks the board could take, put it to bed or to follow up with the school board?
Well, that was what Brent had originally said, is to have Troy see if the school board would sign on or be on board.
I know, but I don't wanna send Troy on a mission. Have Troy come back and say, yeah, the school board's interested, let's say, as an example. And then you say, yeah, but the town voted it down, I don't wanna do it anyways. So we either kill it now, or we agree.
I again think this should be head by the schools.
Okay. John, your thoughts? Do you think it should be head by the school?
I think the school should show interest first. If they do, then we can obviously support it. But the voters also said no drastically for $13,000. I can't see them funding a $250,000 project.
I share the opinion of my colleagues.
So it doesn't get us anywhere. Okay, so Troy, what I'd ask you to do is contact the school, ask the school if they were intending to go forward with the Safe Routes to School program, and if they are, that we'll participate. If not, just bring that back to the board if you can, okay?
Okay.
Next item is Board of Selectmen action items.
Like a journey?
No.
Oh, okay.
We went through and put together a list of action items early on in the year. If you want to adjourn, just make the motion.
Yeah, I was joking.
Oh, you were?
Okay, so we went through and put together a list of action items for the course of the year, some of which we've gotten done. Quarterly reviews of 2016 budget, I think we're gonna do that later in the, later tonight. Miscellaneous funds, Troy, that's something that's still open,
It is, yeah.
okay? The wage plan implementation's done. 17 budget development and adoption schedule.
It's not done. I don't know why that's struck.
So, Code Red, personnel policies are all,
Code Red, when are we gonna train all the key personnel? Because winter's coming. Sorry. That's what we said, that's what we end up really using it in.
That's what we use it, yeah.
We gotta figure out how to do it.
You know, it's not that difficult. Probably I can set it as a goal to get it knocked out in August.
I would just make sure it's documented too, so that anybody can figure out what it's not.
Yeah.
So I think that's been always our shortfall. and we-
Well, I know in my interactions with Code Red, they have information, they can see who goes on in the activity. They're very concerned that there has been limited activity, with just a couple individuals, so.
Well, like I said, I think that the documentation should be, even with the training, should be step one, go here, do this, do
Yeah.
that. Just make sure it's very clear so we can pick it up and just do it.
okay? Are there any action items that the board sees that we should immediately jump on right now? Cutler Road intersection improvement?
Impact fees, determine how they can and cannot be used. They can be used for anything.
That's what it sounds like.
Problem solved.
16 capital improvement plan? Fire station feasibility, that's completed.
Is it?
Did we actually receive the final report?
Not yet.
I know they
No.
came in, they gave us what they were thinking.
Well, I guess it said it's underway, right? In green, it's underway.
Right.
Green's underway.
Right.
But that should have been done by now. Wastewater feasibility,
Water was done.
wastewater's done. Safe route to school committee, guess what?
No, it's still on there.
The community television is done, right?
Right,
Dissolved committee established.
yep. Anything that sticks out at people that, or should be added to this?
I don't know where you're seeing safe routes to school.
It's under committees. Second page.
We left the agricultural committee on there, and when the board discussed it, this just seemed to, be more the thought process of just being maybe having the, I don't know if it was the planning board,
Conservation.
the
Commission.
conservation
Did we ever
was.
ask them to do it? Thought we did.
I wasn't instructed to ask them to do that.
I thought we were going to ask it. I actually thought we already did, but.
So I guess what I'd say, you're the ex officio, right?
Yep. Would you, so you would like me to ask them to serve as the agricultural committee? And then we would, at that point, we would have to appoint the entire membership as the committee.
Whatever the case would be,
Sure. All right.
I think
will,
I was on the conservation when this was coming up as a warrant, they were aware of it, I just wondered if they were in favor of doing it or not, I don't recall.
I'll ask at the August meeting.
Okay. Anything else on this? I think we just need to update this, Troy,
Yeah.
if we can, because some things have changed on here since I marked this up before.
The fire station feasibility study, I think we need to reach out to the architect there and push him, because we're gonna be starting our budget process here
Right.
pretty soon. And it's gonna be important that that document's done.
Is it possible to deliver to the chief when he's having the chief's on vacation?
Could be. Okay. 2016 default budget adjustments. So Troy, you put that updated, right?
Yes.
So if the board can turn to that so we can understand where we are.
How much of it has changed since the last time
All I did was highlight, down at the bottom, I just highlighted in like, light blue. So with the budget adjustments that we approved earlier on in the season, as you recall, one of the things that we had forgot to put in was the, highway department's, lease payment for the pickup truck that we purchased last December. So that was in the amount of $9,371. That's been added to this spreadsheet as an increase. The non-union wage implementation, we had it at $30,000. And now we're gonna be coming in, the actual net impact was about 23,000. I'm just having some small allowance here for some overtime impact. And I've removed the stormwater MS4 permit cost.
Shouldn't that go into the column for,
Well, we were over when we had,
I thought there was what, 10,000,
we were about
18,000?
we were about $9,000 over meaning that we exceeded the default budget. So,
No. What I'm saying is you got stormwater MS4 permit. I thought in the budget there was a dollar amount of like $9,000 or $10,000 or something.
there
like
was
that.
$10,000.
Okay, but shouldn't that $10,000 number be issued into the decreases then?
No, because we were,
You're just gonna show it as a zero?
yeah.
Okay.
So with these adjustments here, you can see, there are other expense items in the operating budget but for at least the items that we made adjustments on, we're about $5,000 under default.
So we're still in good shape.
What's that?
So we're still in good shape.
Yeah, that's just a snapshot of these adjustments. Now, obviously, there's other things that are going on in the operating budget.
Well, I was just gonna say,
Assuming
this is if everything's perfect.
No, I
this is
know,
everything's
I
perfect.
understand
So
that.
assuming that everyone holds to their bottom line, this is where you're at. But
Right.
at this point right now, time, I've not been informed by anyone that we're gonna exceed the bottom line, so.
Yeah, it's early though.
But we're still early.
Yeah.
So I'm a step behind here, so I'm gonna ask this again, what Frank just asked. Why wouldn't there be a dollar amount next to the stormwater MS4 permit? If the money's not being spent this year?
Because what
There
he's
was no
doing,
money, there was no money there in the default budget, so I originally had listed it as a $10,000 increase.
Right.
But at the time that I did that, we had forgot that I did not add the highway department's lease payment.
Gotcha.
So that was missing. So really, the stormwater management, highway lease payment just offset each other.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's not in the default budget, the MS4, right?
It's not.
So where are you getting the money if it doesn't exist in the budget?
It was something that I originally.
Was that a
I was
separate-
proposing to add it.
Oh, okay.
I was
okay.
proposing to add it as,
Oh, right, okay,
and then I found
get
out
it.
that we didn't need it.
right.
And then, so unfortunately, you're all happy, thinking you found $10,000, realized we forgot to plan
Okay.
for the lease payment of the highway, pickup truck.
Okay,
So really, all we're looking at here is that we're saying that the wage implementation, you know, we're estimating that's gonna save us $5,600. Because we didn't do the full implementation as we had originally planned.
so what this says is, to your point, Steve, if everything comes out the way it's supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
we will be positive by $5,700 or whatever.
In the perfect world.
And I'm still working with Karen right now and department heads and really, trying to identify where some things are going really well for us that's not on the spreadsheet. One of the things that, you know, I was looking at, was vehicle fuel. And if everything continues the trend as it has so far in the first 6 months of our budget, there's a possibility that we could have $10,000 of unexpended funds at the end of the year in that line.
And it's going down, which is
I
good.
know, so prices were dropping.
9 cents less.
Careful what you say.
Well, no, I'm saying right now, so at least we can capitalize on that.
Yeah, but your vehicle, your new one is only gonna get around like 8 gallons an hour, 8 miles a gallon, right?
No.
Hauling around all of that Swedish volleyball team, I don't know.
I have those, please, for signature. Can you just pass that?
Okay, any questions on this right now? Okay. Next item,
Yeah, actually, can I just ask a question before we move on to the budget? The new report we're getting now, it doesn't, I don't know if anybody else, but I liked when you saw the department.
Well, me too.
and all that. And now you have to go down each item to figure it out, and it's almost impossible
The
to
pl-
do it.
Right.
The plan is that it's going to look just like the old report. And all we were gonna have was 2 new columns, or 1 new column, that just showed, actually, it was 2 new columns. One that showed the adjustment, either an increase or decrease for that line item. And then your new adjusted line budget.
Yeah.
That was it. And back in April, when we were talking with the software company, it's not gonna be a problem. It's been a problem ever since for them to try to rewrite the report. And we were promised to have it July 1st. We didn't receive it July 1st, but now I hear it's in testing.
So, I guess my question is why do we care about the adjustment? We made the adjustment to budget, we set the budget, that's the number. And
Well-
that's what it is, right? I mean, we've never cared about it in the past, so I'm guessing I'm not sure why.
I
we
guess
care.
because, I
Well,
think
you-
probably in the past, you manually, I don't believe you could show the adjustment.
We never did.
You
the
always had
budget-
your own spreadsheet, and I just wanted to be able to have the adjustment
We never
on the
had a
actual monthly
spreadsheet.
report.
We waited till the budget was decided, default or not, and then we just loaded the numbers what they are after the board made a decision on default.
Yeah.
And that's the numbers that became the budget close items. Like I said, I mean, as long as the report comes someday, it's just, we've been struggling with it now for months.
I know. It's making it difficult. I know it's making it difficult for department heads, and it's making it difficult for me to actually get my hands around this budget to see, you know, where we're truly at.
Okay, that was my question, thank you.
okay, any other questions on the budget? Okay, let's go on to the organizational chart.
I can't
Can you,
open that.
can you reapply permissions? We don't have permissions to get
You
into
don't?
it.
Yeah.
Let us know when you do it.
It says right here, anybody on the internet can read it.
I know, I thought I did.
Well, we're not, we have to, we're not allowed to see it.
I still don't have access for
Oh, there,
Go down the bottom.
You know, did that go?
I did see
Oh.
it, yep, it came out.
here we go.
That's,
Did it open up?
you have it?
Yep, came out.
Okay, so I took a stab, which was a learning experience for me, that I had no idea that Google Docs could actually construct an organizational chart.
Of course it can.
And of course, I will tell you up front that the organizational charts they construct are very, very, very rudimentary. There's not a lot of, how shall I say it, finesse that these organizational charts have. So I took a shot at putting together and gave it to Troy, an organizational chart. I didn't want to get into names and everything else. I just generally tried to keep it top level. There's also stuff missing in here that I'll point out to you as we go along. So if you look at it, you'll see in front of you, it says Board of Selectmen, reporting to the Board of Selectmen of the Town Administrator, Fire Chief, Police Chief. Now, my thinking is that they also, Fire Chief and Police Chief, have a reportability to the Town Administrator,
Right, I don't know why they're on the lateral.
because the organizational chart software of Google Docs won't allow you to do that. So you
Okay,
can't.
so
you
we gotta
can't-
get new ones then, because the town administrator should be right under the Board of Selectmen, and then all of the other department heads should be spread out on a lateral line under the town administrator.
So that's
Except for the town
that's a
clerk.
discussion point we can have, and if that's the way the board wants to organize the town, I have no problem with that. But I just want to make sure that that's what the board wants to do, because for a period of time, the board has been, you know, the fire chief and police chief have some type of reportability to the board. What does the board want to do in that case?
Yeah, but why
Well,
would they
here comes
report to the board when we hire a town administrator?
Well, here comes the question, and I think that the
Why
difference between a town administrator and a town manager is
I agree.
The town manager,
manages the town
the town manager
and every
is
aspect.
under state
Correct.
law, has certain job
Inalienable
duties
rights, life,
under
liberty.
state law. The town administrator has job description as detailed by the Board of Selectmen.
Correct.
So the board can do this however it wants, is my
Right.
point.
So what I was trying to point out in that is, as a town manager, that would directly fall below the Board of Selectmen, and then everybody falls below them.
Correct.
But for a town administrator, this could feasibly be the way we want to run it.
Yes,
And that's feasibly the way some people have always thought it ran.
right?
And I have always felt that we got an administrator to be the, I'll call it buffering point between the selectmen and everybody else, and that they're the ones that generally manage it all
Correct.
and report to us with any issues or.
And that's what I agree with. The town administrator should be directly under the Board of Selectmen, and all other positions fall in line under that. And that's what the intention was when they put the town administrator on the warrant article.
I know that Jason Hoke always said, one great thing about this town is that they may want an administrator, but they allow you to operate like a
As-
manager.
Correct, and they did that for me in Northwood too.
But I think it's, to me, it's the the separation of it is, the town administrator runs the town from the business aspect, the financials, so on. He's not setting policy, it's still us. And if a police chief or a fire chief and town man have a policy, they're gonna come to us anyway. They're not gonna go to the town administrator. They're
But
gonna
they
come to
should be going to the town administrator,
us. I'm just
John.
saying, we're here to set policy. At the end of the
Correct.
day,
So
we're the
we
ones
deal with the town administrator, and then he deals with
But
those.
there's always the gray areas.
No, there's not. It's gray if you make it gray. There, you should not, if you're gonna have an administrator, you allow that person to administer everything within the town. The town administrator works for the board. We set the policy, we tell the town administrator what we would like to do with that, okay? The rest of the department heads deal with the town administrator. They should not be coming to you. They should not be coming to Steve or me. They should be going to the town administrator.
Unless I
That's
can.
why we hire
Unless I
them,
can't. I agree with you.
okay? And to make it lateral, you might as well not have a town administrator. You should have an administrative
I
assistant.
wasn't talking about, I'm just saying, clearly, you're the ones that set policy. It is not the town
There's no
administrator's.
question about
It is
that.
not town administrator's decision to go and tell the chief, you're gonna go do it this way now. That's our responsibility.
No, that's not true. We tell the town administrator, he administers that, and he should administer that department.
But it's coming from us,
Yeah.
he's the
But he
best.
works for us anyway.
No, I think what John's saying, and I don't think you're disagreeing,
I think we're actually agreeing.
I'm only overseeing the policies that are adopted by
Exactly,
boards, so purchasing, and, you know, if
exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so,
I'm gonna ask, I wanna deflect this a little bit, just a little bit. And if you don't mind.
Absolutely, go for it.
Troy, how do you see your position?
well, currently, right now, I think I see it
If you
as
didn't
it's-
see this chart,
If I didn't see this chart,
how do you
Well-
see your position? How do you feel you have always been portrayed your job is?
This way.
I think it's this way, yeah.
Yeah, he runs the town, he doesn't run those two departments.
I look at a town administrator different than a town manager. A town manager, I would agree with you 100%. Everybody reports to the town manager. Town manager reports to the Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen provide, I'll call it general philosophy, guidance to the town manager in terms of where we're going, stuff like that. A town administrator, on the other hand, is, the best way I can describe it, the executive officer of the Board of Selectmen. He or she takes and, by working with the department heads, carries out the directions of the Board of Selectmen. That's why, when I did a first cut at this, I showed it that way. Now, what's not shown on here, which is what I told you earlier, is there is no way to show dotted line. I think, for example, the fire chief, police chief have a budgetary reportability to the town administrator.
That's where I agree. Yeah.
Okay? They also have, on a day-to-day interaction basis, report to the town administrator. But for general bigger items, stuff like that, they may come to the Board of Selectmen. Or the town administrator
But
may
normally-
bring that stuff to the Board of Selectmen and ask the Board of Selectmen to resolve issues, whatever you wanna call it.
I agree with that part. I think that they should go through the town administrator first.
So,
It should,
I'm just trying to get this straightened out because I've heard so many versions on how the town reportability is, and I wanna get it down on paper.
See, I never thought there was any ambiguity. I always, at the end of the
No,
day,
I'm,
the town administrator got his authority by us delegating certain roles and tasks. And quite honestly, when Troy first started, he did not have the same authority that Jason Hope did at the time, because we gave Jason Hope a lot more of that, that operational guideline.
so.
Troy's now getting there, right? So I don't see the
So
difference.
how does the board want this to work? Do you want having all department heads reporting to the administrator, or do you want that executive officer type of function as I described a couple moments ago?
Personally, I think you're creating a gray area if you do it that way. I think if you have them report to the town administrator, that was the initial impression that I had when we voted this.
So then my question would be, and Troy would be very well within his rights to ask the question, you're expecting that I have all of the responsibilities of a town manager, but you're not paying me as a town manager?
No, that's not true.
Of course it's true.
No, it is not, because Troy can't hire, fire, promote, or demote.
Well, wait a minute now. Now you're showing a dotted line. You're
No, no,
you're
no,
going
no,
exactly where
no,
I'm going.
No, stop, no, come on. Troy,
Hold, he hired the position
because we allowed him to do
that
it.
works with Karen.
Right, we allowed him to do that. That came from this
As a vote.
board.
it was a vote.
All right.
Yeah, we
There was a
did,
vote of the board.
but he couldn't fire that position.
Correct.
He'd have to come to the board and that's.
Every decision on hiring, firing, promotion, demotion has to come to the board. We're the policy-setting agency. But I think he needs the ability to deal on a day-to-day basis with the departments. And the problem is, what happens is when you get the gray area by allowing the department heads to bypass the administrator on certain issues, and that creates a problem sometimes. And I think that through our ability to govern the town should be directly through Troy and Troy through to the departments. We're not here on a day-to-day basis. He is. And if he has an issue, he can certainly call us. He can certainly email us like he does. And I think we should absolutely not be on a day-to-day basis dealing with the department heads, because that's circumventing what his job is supposed to do.
I don't know that we
I
are.
don't think we are. But where do we have a problem? I guess that's the other question I have. What's
I don't
bringing
see a
this-
problem, but I think if it's lateral like that, we will have a problem.
That's how it is by authority.
No, it is not.
Yeah, it is. I go back to a town administrator is a town administrator, period. That's how it lays out.
No, it
The
isn't,
chiefs are
John.
always directly reported to the board.
That everybody can report to the board, but they should go through the town administrator. It gets unmanageable if you're gonna have people doing an end run on him.
But they don't.
They do if you allow it. If you allow it, they do an end run on the town administrator. It could happen on budgetary items, it could happen on anything. And that shouldn't happen. He should have,
I think what happens is, by having it go through the town administrator, it's just that I'm the first point of contact, and I listen to what's going on, I make that decision with, the department heads.
Right.
That I think we can make this decision based on existing policies, we're fine, we don't need to go to the Board of Selectmen with this, we'll go down, we'll handle it this way. Or we jointly make that decision that, now this needs to go to the board. And, but it's done together.
But that's how I
team
perceive it's working today. I guess I haven't seen
I have, yeah.
any evidence of a town department head coming to us without first starting, knew where it's happening and being put on the schedule. I don't see that happening. And I also, when we first brought on Jason, when we first brought the town administrator, year 2 in, people were criticizing us for releasing so much responsibility as being elected officials. We went way, I don't personally went that far. I just think that the perception was our town administrator was doing our jobs, and that's not the reality. There's a lot of dialogue that's happening constantly between us and that position, and always will be. It's just not in front of the public, and that's why I think people get the impression that we've relinquished it.
So how does the board want to show this? That the fire chief and police chief report to the town administrator?
I really think that that's the only way to effectively manage. And why not have the road agent? Why is the road agent not having the report?
Because he was appointed, he's part of the town hall structure. He's
But
not
see, that
elected, he's
doesn't
not
make
elected
sense,
anymore.
John.
The road agent reports to the town administrator on this.
Right, so
I agree
everyone
with that.
should report to the town administrator.
You lost my logic.
You have the fire and police chief up in lateral, but yet you don't have the road agent.
That's right.
I don't understand why.
Because we hired them.
Why would you not have,
Because the fire chief and police chief have a duty under state law
Right.
that requires that they have some type of relationship with the Board of Selectmen.
they do through the town administrator?
It doesn't say in the state law that they have a relationship through the town administrator.
It doesn't say that they report to the Board of Selectmen either. It says that they function in their capacity under RSA 154-19. Has nothing, no stipulation that they report to a Board of Selectmen.
So what does the board want to do? How does the board want this to appear?
I don't see that we've been having an issue,
So which way does it show?
So,
the way it is.
and if you could show the dotted line to the.
Well,
town
I just can't,
administrator,
you can't draw it in, I'd
You
have
have to do
to.
something different to do it. I mean, we can do
Right.
it in PowerPoint and do it, and go it that way, but.
Well, I tried PowerPoint, and PowerPoint doesn't really wanna.
Do it there's different ways to do it, but I agree, I mean, I just don't think we had a problem, and I think we do need to make sure these department heads, the 2 chiefs, are aware from a financial, operational, day-to-day stuff, they should be working with the town administrator, and let's show it that way.
I don't-
And ultimately, have the responsibility.
Unless I'm blind, I don't see that that's not happening.
I agree with you, it's not happening. We're just
But
trying to
if
show
you
it in the
put
chart.
them lateral, what you're putting them on that line is that they're equal to the town administrator. That's what you're showing on that line, that they're on equal footing with the town administrator, and
In
they are
some
not.
ways they are, because they've been appointed by us, the same as the town administrator. And on the contract with the Board of Selectmen.
But John,
Well, all three of these folks have contracts with the Board of Selectmen for their positions.
okay, but functionally, to function in their departments, it does not make sense that you make them lateral and equal to the town administrator. It just does not make sense. I'm sorry, I've been doing these for 35 years, and it just does not make sense.
So, are you trying to say just because you've been living in the
yeah.
bowels of the
Yeah,
public
sure,
service sector
yeah.
that you're gonna be
No,
smarter than
my-
everybody
my-
else?
No, I'm saying
Okay.
that my opinion is that you put the town administrator directly under the Board of Selectmen.
I guess, the question is, and I know we've said we're not being able to do the dotted line, but if the town administrator position was directly underneath the Board of Selectmen, and you had fire chief, police chief, a solid line going to the Board of Selectmen, but a dotted line going through the town administrator, what would that statement mean? So is it a coordination effort through the town administrator, but the solid line meaning, if you're talking about,
People 10 years from now will
Reprimand.
not know what that meant.
People continue to know what
Okay.
the
yeah,
It'll be clear as mud to someone down the road.
Well, the intention is, once we get this done, we put it in the personnel policy manual, so there's no longer any doubt as to how this thing works.
and this is not just about the two chief positions. I mean, I think a lot of the issues that I've been questioning is more underneath me and
So I have
some of the
another-
organizations of other
I
departments.
have another question to go there. Where does the planning board chair and the planning board assistant fit in? Because the planning board chair is not appointed by us, but, well, actually, we appoint them to the planning board.
Right.
Correct.
And then the planning board decides who they're gonna have chair them. So they're now responsible for one of our employees? So
Well,
then how do we hold them accountable?
I think by law, they are.
correct,
By law, they can hire an employee,
and they have.
and they have.
And I understand that.
So,
But how does that have no direct responsibility back to us?
because under state law, the planning board can,
Well, the intention would be that there should be a dotted line back to the Board of Selectmen for the planning board chair. There's some type of,
I also question if,
It should be
if
underneath the
that
town
can be,
administrator.
is there something administratively that we need to do to make that a solid line through the town administrator?
Cause it needs to go through the town administrator.
I don't know the answer to that, but we should ask the question.
Well,
because I don't know if we
under
want
state
elected
law,
officials
the-
managing
I
town
agree with you.
employees.
under
Well,
state law, the planning board chair and the planning board in general has the authority to hire.
to hire an assistant
And that's what they've done.
for the planning board.
And we have no authority to get involved in that. If you want to say that that person, they can't hire anybody, you're not in agreement with what the state law says.
I'm not saying they can't hire them. I'm saying they need to be accountable.
They're accountable to the planning board.
They're accountable to the board
How's the planning board accountable to us?
through the budget, that's about it.
Right, that's it.
That's insane.
I went through it in
You
Northwood.
wanna see a flaw in state government, there's one right
Well,
there.
It's state law, RSA, it's a 600 number, I think.
671 or
Yeah.
72.
That a lot, because we had an issue and we could not act on this issue. We had an issue with the person that they hired and we could not act on it. Because they had hired and they're the ones that have to
I
act
think
on it.
that's, I don't know, I mean, I get that the town clerk tax collector is separate, she's elected. Well, in our case, she's elected.
Right.
I mean, I get that makes sense, but I mean, everything to do with the planning board has to come through here.
No,
No,
So, what if we decide not to appoint anybody to the planning board, because we don't like the decisions they make? Who's
then you got another
responsible then?
state law to deal with.
Who's responsible then?
'Cause yeah, you got another state law to deal with.
Well, who's responsible then?
still the planning board. The citizens of this town voted to institute the planning board.
Right? And we'd probably be in dereliction of duty and not filling the position.
Well, if they couldn't get anybody, who would have to serve? The Board of Selectmen, right?
Well, what would happen is if the planning board could not handle a decision on a subdivision, for example, or a site plan, then it would go to the Board of Selectmen.
No, I'm just saying, let's just say they only had 2 members and they couldn't get enough members for a quorum.
It
And they
would go to
couldn't-
the Board of
And
Selectmen.
they couldn't solicit anybody else.
The petitioner or the person bringing it in front of the planning board could bring it to the Board of Selectmen for a decision.
Wow. I guess I've learned something today.
This needs more work.
I didn't say it didn't, I'm just presenting it for comment and
Nope, perfect, I
consideration.
wanna make them,
Then you've got the town clerk tax collector also sitting there.
but that's an elected position.
Right.
That's
Half her
true.
job is, that's the challenge, half her job is and half her job isn't.
What job, what half is it?
Isn't, I thought, and I mean, I'm messed up, I thought, oh, well, I take that back, maybe it's a case of.
Oh, you think
tax
she's
collector-
just an elected town clerk?
I thought it's just as elected town clerk, maybe I'm wrong,
An appointed tax collector? I don't know, but
that's, I don't know, but, cause it's
That's
two
a
separate
good
budgets.
question, because
This is
I'm
two
not,
separate budgets, remember, and I'm just,
I think that's a good,
I don't know.
I don't know either. I forgot.
It goes back to my theory
Hey,
that, you
she's
know,
outside the box, it doesn't count for us.
Yeah, right.
well, but the point is that I think going back to say, you know,
I bet I'll find out
Budgetarily-
first thing tomorrow morning when she shows up to work.
budgetarily, she's got, you know, she's got to report to Troy from a budgetary perspective, to be able to, you know, operate the budget.
I have
Ah.
other samples of organizational charts in towns not unlike ours. Would you like me to share that
I don't care.
with this board at an upcoming meeting?
But that doesn't mean that just because one town does it that way or thinks they do
I
it that way.
understand that, but I'm saying that I would like to just share another view.
And just because you put something together at Northwood and want to justify yourself,
Don't be upset now, Frank, because I don't like your little scritchings here.
no, absolutely not am I upset, and I think,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think Troy will even tell you that I gave this to Troy weeks ago and said, cut it up, mark it up, however you think it makes sense.
Hmm.
I don't really care, I'm trying to get this thing straightened out, because we have to take and understand who reports to who.
I'll be happy to work on a draft, on a proposal.
Apparently, we don't have to worry about too many people, though.
It's a good thing.
Probably true. So where do we wanna go with this, if anywhere, or we just wanna forget about it?
I said I'd be happy to work on a proposal.
Yeah, but we know where
for
you're
you.
going, Troy, and the other,
No, I'm Brent.
Brent, and the other members of the board.
See, he doesn't get flustered, does he?
Where do you want it to go, Frank?
I want it to be resolved so that we can actually take and make some progress. If we have some personnel problems, we know who's handling them.
Okay. So are you saying you like this the way it is?
No, I don't really like it the way it's shown on here. I think there's more changes, there's some changes that need to be made. I think there is a point to be made that the town administrator has a role to play with the police chief and fire chief, and I think that's not shown on here. I think the same thing could be said for the town clerk and
Planning board?
planning board. That's my opinion.
Well, I guess if you looked at this as a personnel type structure,
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with it. Because if the fire chief had an issue with a call fireman, he can handle that on his own, right?
He would be,
He usually handles it on his own. He
But if
he
the-
would bring Troy into it and discuss it with Troy.
And if the police chief had a problem, but the police chief can't fire a police officer.
Correct. It's gotta go.
Wow. We can find ways to make holes everywhere.
Well, my offer's on the table, gentlemen.
I would like to see what Brent has.
Sure, put it together, Brent.
I don't think that it could hurt anything.
No, I don't think it would either. I'm just saying. I know where he's gonna put it out. He'll have everybody reporting to the town administrator.
So then you can just change it to a town manager and we'll change Troy's position.
Right.
Anyway, it'd be interesting also to know if the code enforcement officer and the road agent, if they think they report to the town administrator or the board of selectmen.
I can already tell you the answer to that.
I think I might know the answer, but I'm And is there anything written, and this is where you go, you sort of start off with the organizational chart, and then you start to, make statement and job descriptions as to who reports to who and who's responsible to what.
Right.
Well, most of these positions have job descriptions.
And who,
Right.
and,
And I
One of
would-
the ones we're actually,
and who does it say they report to?
in the case of the director and all that, it's all to the town administrator.
In the case of what?
In case like the financial director, the things that are actually underneath the town administrator, they actually say that, I
You
believe.
think they, yeah.
No, I agree with you.
And I would,
But this doesn't also show, if you look down here, there's a financial clerk, right? And then there's a receptionist, I'll call it the person who sits, that's shown reporting to the director of, the finance director, where in actuality, this board discussed that that person reports to the town administrator.
which one, talking about the reception?
Receptions.
Yep.
And well, yeah, I know we talked about it, so.
Right.
Right, but the thing is I think initially, remember when the financial director was the office manager? They all reported to her at that one point, at least that's how it was structurally said, I don't know if that reality worked that way. So are we saying the finance clerk reports to the town? No, that reports to,
The bookkeeper
yeah, the bookkeeper
reports to the finance director,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Yeah, I think the receptionist, they may think it reports to Kevin, cause it's building.
Well, there you go, yeah.
But.
So,
this was a task.
some work there.
I think the thing is, she reports to the town administrator, but she has duties that cross multiple departments.
Yeah, she,
And I would argue that we don't have multiple departments, it's called the town hall.
Yeah.
Your job is to support the town hall staff, and these are the roles, these are the tasks you're asked to do.
So Brett, if you wanna go ahead and take a stab at this and work with Troy on it, that would be good.
Okay.
Now, I can change this to make it what you're gonna come out with, which
Well, go ahead. Send it to me.
just a couple minutes, all I gotta do is just change where it says Board of Selectmen to Town Administrator for everybody, and we're good to go.
Yeah, it'll all stack right up underneath them.
Okay,
all right.
so it's a start. We'll eventually get there. Next item, where we wanna
How
go.
about public input?
Public input, there's no members of the public here, so that's all said and
I
done.
wanna be on the John Albert show.
And the next thing, administrator report, Troy?
The only thing, couple things, I wanted to, I know this was mentioned at the last meeting, but again, thank, citizen in town for their efforts in making the, Hillcrest Road improvements a reality. Same citizen dropped off a Bobcat this morning, here at Town Hall, the big bush hog attachment to it. And, Public Works staff are gonna be using that piece of equipment at no charge, to do some of the brush here that's grown up at Town Hall. They're doing some work down at the, highway garage transfer facility, hopefully the tennis courts, and maybe, hopefully, get it down at Derrick Pond and do some work down there. So,
Awesome.
and also, so for next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm scheduled to take a few days off. Should be back in the office Thursday and Friday.
Who's everybody gonna report to?
Kevin.
Okay, anything else, Troy?
I'm glad not to
That's
be
it.
on that week.
Okay, selectmen reports, Mr. Lemire.
Only that I shared a document from the New Hampshire Municipal Association with everyone today, state funding, pretty comprehensive document that, we may, I shared it with Troy, may want to share it with other agencies in town. Very well-prepared document.
Just because NHMA sent it out, you say it's well-prepared?
Here we go again.
Yeah, if you could send that out to the department heads, that would be good, just for information.
I'll send it to the budget committee as well.
Anything else, Brent?
I'm all set, thank you.
John?
Nothing to report since the last meeting, been no meetings. Rec Commission is meeting tomorrow night. I believe there's public here to talk about Jeff Lane. There'll be public attending, to talk about Jeff Lane project. And they're getting that stuff.
Oh, good, okay.
That's tomorrow night at 7:30.
Anything else?
Nope.
Steve?
Planning board hasn't met since our last meeting. Their next meeting's next Tuesday, when I found out we have a meeting with DES now. But, I'll make sure that I follow through with them, that they get the wastewater study. And,
I just think it makes sense for them to incorporate it in any future planning they got, so.
yep, I'll make sure that I translate that to them in an email, and I'll also try to remember to do that in our next meeting. And I believe, I haven't heard whether the whole Jeff Lane project, they were invited to come in front of the planning board at the 19th meeting. I do not know as of this time if they planned on going in front of the planning board or not.
My understanding is they got approval from them. They talked about it in the meeting, and I guess they accepted it. I can file tomorrow about that.
What they did is they invited them to come back and use them as the forum to present the plan to the neighbors.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if that was accepted or not. I have no idea.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, I think the board was updated on the meeting with the governor and the PFOA, issues. That's the only thing that's been going on. As a side note, commencing Friday the 15th until the 22nd, I will be out of the country and not available unless you send me an email, then I'll probably sporadically be able to get that, so just to let you know. Okay, items removed from consent. We had one item removed from consent, and that was the minutes of the meeting for June 27th. My reason for removing those is I was not at the meeting, and rather than vote in favor of them, I would figure we just pull it out and I'll vote abstain when somebody has a motion. So does there anybody wish to make a motion to approve the minutes of June 27th?
I make the motion to approve the minutes of June 27th as written.
Second?
We have a motion and a second discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Myself? So the motion carries 3-0-1. Any other business that the board has? Mr. Lemire, for the meeting of the 25th, will you have your organizational chart ready?
I hope to.
It should be pretty, never mind, I'll stop beating a dead
I was
horse.
gonna say, otherwise you're gonna be the dead horse in a minute.
Okay, with that said, there will be, just to make sure people understand, a meeting coming up next week, Tuesday, the 19th, which is going to be the meeting for the Department of Health and Human Services, will be at Campbell High School, commencing at 7 p.m. The next Board of Selectmen meeting will be the 25th, starting at 6 p.m. Everybody have a good couple of weeks. We'll see you on the 25th. Night.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 4-0-0, and I second.